to Scott Spears Now. Today I'm joined by a lady who the city of Marion thinks a lot of. She has been our personal historian for over 50 years. At 96 years old, she has published her long-awaited autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life. It's my great pleasure to welcome to this program my pal, Trella Romine. And I was just given a copy of Trella's book. If we can show this. This is the soft-bound version, and this is the hard-bound version. Trella, how are you today?
I get up every morning, have 3 meals, check my emails and see if there's one from Scott Spears.
There usually is. Trella, let's talk about that. Email. When did you get involved with this whole email thing?
Well, it goes back farther than email. I had my first computer in 1982 when it was an Osborne about this big, and it had 2 slots that you put disks in. You had to load the program disk every time, and the data disk was over here. And that is in the archives of the Historical Society now. But I may have to borrow it if I want to play some of those discs.
Trella, what made you get interested in computers way back in '82?
My son David. He drugged me into the information age, struggling, and he said, "Mom, you need this." And he was right.
At 96, because a lot of people who were not raised with computers don't come to them very easily. Was it easy for you to learn?
Yes, with David's help.
Yeah.
I'm still learning.
I think we all are from day to day as far as computers goes. Trella, I wanted to talk about something else that was on my mind. For years, when we would get together, a meeting or an interview or whatever it was, you would always have a little piece of paper with you, and you took notes about what was going on. Now, I know you haven't done that for the last couple years, but you did that well into your 90s. Why did you always keep such a record of history?
That's what history is records. And I felt what we were doing was history. And I don't know where those notes are, though.
Really?
No. I'll have to look in my archives.
Well, that was one thing that always fascinated was me. You really kept a first-hand perspective on history. And I thought that was unique.
Well, I'm no longer the secretary of the Historical Society, but I never go to a meeting without taking my own minutes.
Let's talk about this book, Trella, because I want to talk about this, because this was long awaited, My Not-So-Ordinary Life. How long did it take you to write this?
96 years.
Yeah, you started working a long time ago.
The book, actually about 2 years ago, and it was David, my son David Haldeman, that kept saying, "Mom, you've got to write all this down." And he made it easy for me to do.
Let's start with the title, My Not-So-Ordinary Life. How did you come up with that?
I think that was David's suggestion. You should have given me these questions ahead of time.
I think that it's a great title. I love it. I think it's such a neat title. What was it like writing this book, going back through your 96 years?
Oh, I don't know whether I took you into my office when you were there.
I have been to your office.
But up on the shelves are not only my diaries, but my mother's diaries before me, and those were my resources. And of course I used city directories a lot, and I love to write. I am compelled to write. I have to write something every day. I still keep a diary.
Would you say it was cathartic to look back at your 96 years? Was it hard to look back? Was it fun to look back? What was it?
Oh, it was sometimes sad. When I lost my husband, Ray Romine, when I lost my very dear friend, Howard Hauser. I've been fortunate that in my immediate family there haven't been many current deaths. Of course, my mother and dad and my dear sister Mary are gone. But that's life. And the next generation, the computer generation, I keep track of. Kathy's in Nevada, Dave Decker's in New Mexico, Jed's in Columbus, David's family's in Cincinnati. Now think how difficult it was before computers and how easy it is now to keep in touch every day.
You know, it's interesting, Trella. There's always a debate going on. Has the internet made us a better society or a worse society? Is information too readily available? Is it good to have everybody be a journalist who has a laptop? Or is it a great thing that we can communicate with people so easily? What do you think? You've seen it both ways.
It's absolutely fantastic. You know, at one time our only communication with the outside world here in Marion was the Marion Star. And just today I was looking through a book of articles that I had published in the Marion Star day before yesterday. And it seemed to me that all the things I was writing about happened just the day before yesterday. Mm. And it's interesting, I think, for an author from a perspective of 50 years to look back on what they've written. And it's almost as if someone else had written it.
Are you a better writer at 96 than you were at 46?
Well, if I'm not, I better quit writing.
Well, when you look at stuff you did when you were 46, 56, do you look back and say, I would write that differently now?
Surprisingly, I had picked up day before yesterday today, and this is going to sound egotistical, but I thought it was pretty good.
I've read some of those. They are pretty good. But you know, Trella, it's interesting because your career in writing did not start with the Marion Star. You have a tie to the Harding Herald.
Oh, yes.
Now tell me about that.
Well, in the early 1930s, I took journalism because that was about writing. And when I told Miss Foreman that I wanted to try out to be editor of the Harding Herald, she paused and shook her head and she said, Trella, girls can't be editors of the Herald. And I said, why not? And she said, she had to think, well, they have to take their proofs over to that dirty old print shop on Prospect Street, and the men in there swear. But they intervened. We didn't have tryouts at the end of the year like they usually did. And during the summer, uh, two others wanted to try out. And their parents were movers and shakers in Marion. And Lucille Foreman couldn't afford to not choose their kids. But there were enough students for 3 classes, so we each got a class. And I still have all those Harding Heralds in a leather binding that my dad got for me.
How important was that for you? Did you realize at the time that this was a big deal for a female to do this?
Well, Miss Foreman made me feel that way. Oh, but Alice Crowe was the other one, and her father was the postmaster. And so that was a highlight of my life, being an editor of the Harding Herald.
And still going strong today. We are going to take a very quick time out here, pay some bills. We're going to come back with Trella Romine. Did you know that Trella was very involved in Hemmerle's Flowers? How involved? We're going to find out when we come back right after this. Trella Romine's long-awaited autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life, is now available. Trella Hemmerle Romine is a Marion native who lives near Caledonia, Ohio at Paradise, her home along the Whetstone River, for the past 65 years. She is a 1933 graduate of Harding High School and former owner of Hemmerle's Flowers. She also has played an integral role at the Marion County Historical Society. Copies of My Not-So-Ordinary Life are available in hardbound and softbound editions at Heritage Hall, located at 169 East Church Street, and at Hemmerle's Flowers, located at 615 East Center Street, both in Marion. You can also order books online at www.paradisebooks.com. My Not-So-Ordinary Life, the autobiography of Trella Romine. It's can't miss. Whether you are buying a home, selling a home, or just want to know more about real estate, call Curry Klingel, Real Estate Professional. He will assist you with all of your real estate needs. Curry is located at 1794 Marion Waldo Road in Marion. Telephone number 740-361-6996. Curry is also on the net at www.inahurrycallcurry.com. In a hurry? Call Curry today. Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The Professional Building, located at 685 Delaware Avenue, is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803. Back with you here on Scott Spears Now, chatting with my good friend Trella Romine, who has recently published her autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life. And that's a great picture there on the cover. Trella, how much do these books sell for?
The softbound is $25 and hardbound is $35.
If you were going to pitch this to somebody, if you hadn't written this, and I know that's hard to do, but if you were going to talk to somebody and say you really should buy this book, what would you say? Why?
If you want a peek into life in the early 1920s on, this book is for you.
I want to talk about that time period. It's one of my favorite stories involving you. I ask you to tell it every time we do this, do an interview. The hand that touched the hand of President Harding.
Yes.
Tell me the story, Trella.
Well, good. Being born into the early 1920s, was really a gift from God, because there was something exciting going on all the time. Marion had its centennial. Our relatives came from all over to watch the parades, and then Warren G. Harding decided to run for president and to conduct his campaign from the front porch. And I remember being in the crowd, people all around me, and finally they held me up so I could see this man talking up there on the porch. And gradually we worked our way up to the banister, and I was kind of scared, you know. I'd never been close to somebody so important, but I looked up at his kind face, and he held out his hand, and I just held out my hand, and this is the hand that shook the hand of candidate Harding.
Truly, I would venture to say that there's nobody left who had done that at this point.
Sadly, probably not.
Yeah.
I was 4 years old.
Trella, he got such a bad rap for about 100 years, close to it. Now, over his presidency, the Jim Robinault book, I think, has done a lot to dismiss some of that. As an historian, how do you look at President Harding, and how have you always looked at his presidency?
I'm not really... politics has never been really important to me, but of course Harding has been important. And just today, by email, I got the talk that Ron Allison gave to the Harding Symposium. And these people are professional historians, but not Marionites, but they've chosen to make Harding the focus of several of their books. And I think for the first time he's getting what he deserves in their research.
Have you always felt during all the years that he wasn't getting a fair shake that he was better than people were making him out to be?
Oh, I didn't think too much about it.
Really? Yeah. Well, you know, it's very unique. I think for a long time we here in Marion, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we paraded it around that much, that he was from here. When you think about it, even today, 44 presidents came from 44 cities. That's not too many when you...
Well, I remember, I think it was Kathy, coming home from college and saying, "Mother, why do people laugh when I say I'm from Marion, Ohio, where a president came from?" And I think that sums it up.
Absolutely, I think you're right. Trella, you say your son urged you to write this book, but you had to want to do it yourself at one point. Why did you want to do it personally?
Well, I'm going to die. We all are.
We all are.
This is my legacy.
This book. This is the one. Did you always, in the back of your mind, think you wanted to write a book about your life?
No, I didn't really think too much about it until, just 2 or 3 years ago when David started encouraging me to get at it.
Now that you have written it and you call it your legacy, how does it feel to know you've completed it?
That I what?
Completed the book. It's finished and it's done.
Well, I hope I live a few more years.
Well, yeah, well, that's an interesting thing, Trella. I mean, I don't think you're going to be leaving us anytime soon at all.
Well, my grandmother lived to be 103.
Is that right?
And my cat is 14 years old.
You're surrounded by good genes.
Surrounded by.
Well, you know, Trella, I think this might help somebody. You're 96 now. You've never hidden your age. What's it like to be 96?
I had to take your arm coming up the hall. It's losing my physical strength. I think my mind's pretty sharp.
I would say.
Although sometimes I'm beginning to have to recall. I can't recall the botanical names of all the flowers. And that's disturbing, that I think there's, my brain's getting tired.
I don't want to belabor this too much, but you said there that this is your legacy. We all are going to die. Hopefully we do leave a legacy. Does death frighten you, Trella?
No.
Do you think about it?
No.
That's good.
I'm ready to meet my maker.
But you've still got stuff to do.
Yes.
You're still going to be here for a while. Used it before we went to commercial break there, Hemmerle's. Maybe more than a big part of your life. You were the owner of Hemmerle's, if people don't remember that. Your father started it. What was that part of your life like?
Busy. Oh,
I can imagine.
I was raising 2 kids, running a flower shop, becoming involved in the Marion County Historical Society. Looking back, it was a fun time, made a lot of new friends. Hammerley's started because Daddy raised so many glads, Mother didn't know what to do with them. So she started selling them on the front porch, and 25 cents a dozen. And she kept a little notebook of all of her customers. And it just reads like a city directory. Everybody came up on Fairground Street at the corner of Park to buy glads. And so from that, I started doing wedding flowers. And it's still pleasing when somebody in Meyer will say, "Oh, you're Trella. You did my wedding flowers." And so we had contact with everybody in Marion through selling. And eventually they dug out under the house and we opened a shop down there. And then, I think it was 1982, I moved the shop to East Center Street where it is now.
Was it hard to sell the business to somebody not in your family?
No. Diane is like family. She came to work for me when she was 15 years old and grew up in Hemmerle's. And it's very gratifying to see her and her family now. So, and when I go in there, you'd think I still owned her. She's selling books.
Oh, where are the books on sale at? I know they're there at Hemmerle's.
Yeah.
And also at the Historical Society.
Right.
Trella, I want to talk a little bit about this because you really helped get the Historical Society going. I mean, it was your son and you and Charlton Myers who all did this, put this great movement in action that we still have today. If somebody has never been there, who lives in Marion, what would you say you have to come here and see this. What's this?
What pops into my mind is Prince Imperial. What other museum has a 150-year-old stuffed horse?
I know. I don't think people realize that's there. It's very unique.
Yeah. And he was in the Popcorn Festival parade one time.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. You know, Trella, it always baffles me. We've had a president, we've had a Miss America, we've had a treasurer of the United States, all from Marion, Ohio, and yet our history was very loosely kept until the 1960s. Why do you think that was?
I guess we didn't have a proper historian. When you mentioned Mary Ellen Withrow, I saw her just last week at the symposium reception. And Marilyn Meskey, Miss America, was one of my classmates. And so I have known some very important people, including my friendship now with the Harding family that I treasure.
We're going to take one more break here, and we're going to come back, ask Trella if she has any regrets in this 96-year-old life. Also, what's she going to do now? Because the life is not finished by any stretch of the imagination. The book is My Not-So-Ordinary Life. The guest is Trella Romine. We'll be back right after this. Trella Romine's long-awaited autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life, is now available. Trella Himmerly Romine is a Marion native who lives near Caledonia, Ohio at Paradise, her home along the Whetstone River, for the past 65 years. She is a 1933 graduate of Harding High School and former owner of Himmerly's Flowers. She also has played an integral role at the Marion County Historical Society. Copies of My Not-So-Ordinary Life are available in hardbound and softbound editions at Heritage Hall, located at 169 East Church Street, and at Himmerly's Flowers, located at 615 East Center Street, both in Marion. You can also order books online at www.paradisebooks.com. My Not-So-Ordinary Life, the autobiography of Trella Romine. It's can't miss. Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The Professional Building, located at 685 Delaware Avenue, is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803. Scott Spears back with you here now on Scott Spears Live. The guest today is Trella Romine, author of the great new book, My Not-So-Ordinary Life, available at Himmerly's Flowers and the Marion County Historical Society. You'll want to get your copy.
And online.
Oh, it's also available online.
Yes.
Trella, how do we get it online?
I've got a brochure here that tells you. Online at www.paradisebooks.com.
Perfect. And we will make sure we put that up on our webpage. Trella Paradise, you mentioned it. It's where you live. What is Paradise?
It's 18 acres of land along both sides of the Whetstone River, southwest of Caledonia. And when my husband, Ray Romine, and found that spot, and were able to buy it. He coined a word that to us meant heaven on earth, paradise.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great place. I've been there, and just a great area. What part do you think in your long life living in a place that you love has played?
I think it's given me so much pleasure and satisfaction, and I enjoy visitors. I have an open garden every spring, and when a group of school children come to make their leaf collections, I remember back to when I was making leaf collections under my teachers at Central Junior High School. I can't think. I've traveled the whole world, from the Philippines to Germany, Ireland, South America, and I've never seen any place I'd want to live except paradise.
Mm. What has been your favorite part of the world to visit?
Ireland.
Why was that? A lot of people say that.
Well, mainly because I struck up a correspondence with two men in Ireland and was fortunate enough to have 2 trips to Ireland to visit them. And when you visit a home rather than as a tourist on a tour, you get a completely different aspect of it.
You know, I wanted to ask you this, Trella. That's something very interesting. I've noticed this, and there's nothing wrong with the United States of America. It's where I love, and I love it here. But do you find when you go overseas that people are maybe friendlier than we think they are? I find people tremendously friendly overseas.
I think you'd find people friendly any place because you're friendly. I think that's the deciding factor. It's how you treat people that makes them treat you.
Well, it was very interesting when you brought up the family in Ireland, because I ran into a lady once who I had no relationship with, and she was from, I think it was Uruguay, and she said, if you ever come here, just let me know, and gave me her phone number, and said, I'll get you a car while you're here you can ride around in, and you can stay in my house if I'm not here. People are friendly. I mean, and she was an older woman, but you know, I think sometimes because all we see is war on television overseas, that we think people don't like Americans. I've never found that true.
No.
I think that's. I have a few. It's a big misconception. I have a few tying up questions, Trella. What makes a good businesswoman or a businessman? What makes a good business person?
Knowing that you must put your customer first. You must please them. And if you don't please them, you must make it right.
You have seen the better part of the 20th century, which many people have called the people's generation. Everything from World War II to the internet to man landing on the moon. What a generation it was. Are things better now, in 2012, or was there a time in history that was better than this, in your life history, the last 100 years?
I'm not a study of sociology. My life has been, to me, so interesting. I've met so many great people, I can't complain.
Was life, so many people who get to be a certain age say, boy, when I was a kid, it was great. You know, people could leave their doors unlocked, and we played in the neighbor's yard, and you never heard of an illness or a kidnapping. Was it really that way, Trella? It really was?
Yeah.
Do you miss those days?
I couldn't do the things now that I did then. Pictures flash through my mind as you talk about growing up on Oak Street. And we played with the neighborhood kids until dark. And then Mother would come to the door and scold, "Come on, Mary, Trella, it's time to come in." And we had been playing kick the wicket. You know what that is?
I've never heard of that.
Well, you got a curb, and the wicket is a piece like a shingle, and you have bases like baseball, and you come along and you kick the wicket and run.
Kids were creative back then. Well, you had to be. What do you think, neither one of us is going to be here 100 years from now, what do you think in 100 years this world's going to be like?
Oh, I hate to think about it.
I think a lot of people feel it might be on a little bit of a downturn. Tease this before we went to break, Trella. Any regrets in 96 years?
I haven't got time for regrets.
Anything... Well, what do you attribute?
Oh, I do have regrets.
Okay.
That I didn't have a college education.
Why has that stayed with you all these years?
Well, I had taken a college preparatory course, intended to attend Ohio State. Well, I wanted to go to Denison because I'd been there for summer assembly. And so I had the proper classes to go to college. But this was the early 1930s. And one night, Daddy came home. And I know it was probably the hardest thing he ever did. But he said, "Trella, I've had another cut in salary." He said, "There's hardly enough for us to live on. You can't go to college." And you know, in just a week, I'm going to be at the summer commencement wearing a cap and gown.
I did not know that.
To receive a Distinguished Citizens Award.
My goodness. All these years later.
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's great, Trella.
And nobody in that audience will have any idea how much that means to me. And I need to thank my very good friend Dave Claiborne for providing that for me.
People won't realize the story of why that means so much to you. What do you think you'll be feeling when that happens?
Well, I just hope I'm able to stand up and receive it.
I think you will, Trella, and I think nobody deserves it more. What people want to know, anybody over 90, people ask this question. What's the secret, Trella? How do you make it to 90? If you're a guy like me or a lady, how do you make it?
Well, you go to bed at night and you get up in the morning. That's all you have to do.
Did you adjust your diet? Did you exercise? Did you do any of the things they tell us to do?
No, but some of them just came to me. I don't eat much meat. I always have a good breakfast. I enjoy fruits and vegetables more than I do meats. And I'm going to buy some sweet corn on the way home. And I have ripe tomatoes sitting on my table waiting for my supper.
You've left this legacy, Trella, that's so great. How do you want to be remembered? 50 years from now.
Nobody's going to remember me.
Oh, I would disagree, Trella. I think they will. How many books have you written now?
5.
5. You are our preserver of history. If people think about you, if they pull out this book in 50 years and read it, what would be most important for them to take away about you? Not about society, about you.
I'm stumped.
And the last question of all things.
Yes. I have no idea. I doubt anybody will be interested.
I think they will, Trella. I think they will. It's been an amazing life, from Hemmerle's, the businesswoman, to being one of the first women involved with the Harding Herald, to being our preserver of history, to the things you've done at the college, which we didn't touch on, which people can find out about, the prairie out there, the great things you've done with that.
Prairie's been very important to me.
Well, talk a little bit about that, Trella, so people can know that it's out there.
Okay. When Daddy was growing glass, people started bringing baskets and saying, just put them in the basket and make an arrangement for us. And so as we didn't have air conditioning in the 1930s, so we would drive in the evening, and that was our air conditioning. And on the way to Caledonia to visit our friends out there, we saw all these beautiful flowers growing along the railroad tracks. And there was one that looked like baby's breath. And Mother said, well, Ray, why don't we bring a bucket and cut some of these, and it'll make our arrangements prettier. So that's what we did, and that's the way I discovered that it was a prairie, but not until I met Bill Hutchman. And when I took him, I asked him if he would like to see a prairie. And when I took him over, he was a botany teacher. And he threw up his hands and he said, I don't know what these plants are. I never saw these plants. And so it was quite a thrill to, and on my way home, on my way here today, I reminded myself, you gotta drive by the prairie on the way home and see what's blooming.
Now, for people who don't know, where is the prairie?
Go out 309 and turn left at 98 down to the railroad tracks, and don't cross the railroad tracks. Turn right, and that 2-mile strip there, 50 feet between the railroad and we have a nice little brochure that lists all the plants.
Perfect. The book is My Not So Ordinary Life. You can get it in softcover or hardback. It's a great read, I'm sure, from a great lady. Trella, it is always my great pleasure to visit with you. I don't think anybody has done more for Marion in the vein of history and just being an all-around great lady than you.
Well, don't forget Charlton Myers.
Absolutely. We can't forget the judge.
His writings that Madge named the Sage of Salt Rock. And she encouraged the publication of his book with all those radio programs.
So many people. So many. I would say Trella, Charlton, Myers, Madge Guthrie. Those are the names.
And he became a very good friend.
Trella, thank you. It's always a pleasure. Trella Romine. The book is great. My Not So Ordinary Life. Make sure you get a copy. Everybody take care. Talk to you soon.